Strong Tower came about because of Tim Mitchell. We had 100th delusional idea that we thought we were going to be able to get something done as a church plant, and we ended up not being able to get it done. We were thinking we were downtown, so in a lot of ways we thought, oh, we're now accessible to the Parker Street neighborhood or much more parts of the historic downtown of Lakeland and the historically African-American neighborhoods. But then Tim Mitchell was in my office basically saying, we've got to plant a church in the neighborhood. And I was genuinely baffled. I thought, why? And he said, because, and this is the moment that pierced my heart. He said, because by the time the neighbors and their friends from the neighborhood walk to church, they believe by the time they hit the door, I don't belong here. And so when Tim put that challenge before me, I said, well, immediately, well then, okay, then we're gonna have to pray that God raises somebody up, because we don't have a leader right now that we could be ready to go do that. And it was shortly thereafter that we met Ben.
So my sense of calling to ministry started back in high school. I felt a sense of call while I was in the youth ministry. There was a missionary who came, spoke to our youth group, and he was getting everybody fired up for missions. And I'm like, yes, I want to do that. I feel called to missions. And so I told my youth pastor I want to do missions. And he said, well, you should go to Southeastern University in Lakeland. And I'm like, I'd never even heard of that.
Strong Tower was birthed, I believe, through a vision that God had given me years and years ago, about 2000, 2001, 2002. I was struck by the great need for our community to have a church that was geared towards them, not just a place that they could show up and always feel like a guest, but we really had a hard transition of trying to find a way for our families to transition into the church. So we were inviting them to different churches that we were part of. All of those churches loved them, all those churches really cared about them, but it was never a space where they felt like, wow, it was theirs. For a short period of time, I thought maybe God was calling me to do that, to be the pastor. But in that season, I really began to just have this powerful burden that God would provide a church that would really reach our people in a way that they could truly call the church home. In God's providence, I got to meet Ben. 2006, Ben came on staff with our team as a after-school program classroom leader. Shortly after spending time with Ben, I got to hear his heart for a desire to pastor and what it would look like to be a pastor. And then I started sharing with him kind of my desire to have a local church, a church that was geared towards our community. I really think the neat side of that story was Ben was never the original plan for the lead pastor. He and I kind of came together with this vision that he would be the associate. We dreamed about that, prayed about that, searched after men all over the place, called, met with people, had a guy that we thought was the guy, and in God's kindness and providence, all of those people moved on, and then it was still Ben. And I think that position of humility that Ben has always stayed in is really the beauty of Strong Tower as it is today. Is it truly is a church led by a humble man who's considered God's call always with the sense of, if I'm not the right person, bring somebody. If I'm not the right person, send somebody. And in that position, I think has allowed our church to flourish.
I think when I came on to Parker Street Ministries, I met him at lunch that day, and then eventually I ended up working there because I just fell in love with the ministry and the neighborhood and the community. When I met Ben, his title was the church planting apprentice at Parker Street, and so, which is really funny because all the kids would joke that he was the church planting princess, and because they didn't understand what an apprentice was, and so it sounded very close to princess. I was okay with the fact that that was his calling when we first met and were dating, because I loved this neighborhood and I loved the community, so I felt like it was very much in line of what was next for me and what God was calling me to do.
We had been living here in Lakeland. We're attending another church here in the area where, we felt was a fine church, but it was an all-white congregation. Honestly, we would walk in as a family and sometimes still get looks. And then thinking about our children who we wanted them to be able to worship God in a place where they didn't feel that they were different or they were other. And not just in terms of color skin, but in terms of language, priority, in terms of even social status, education, We actually heard about Strong Tower through one of our daughters who was working in Parker Street, doing some ministry there. So she said, you need to meet Pastor. So I did, and just how my heart was warmed from the first time I met him. We love being here. We you know, it's not easy always. You know, there are different cultures, there are different expectations. That's beautiful, you know. And sometimes some of those culture clashes are opportunities for really honest conversations to really get beyond just, how are you doing? Lord bless you, you know, to really become brothers and sisters in Christ.
My favorite aspect of the church is children's ministry. I'm a little biased because I am the children's director here at Strong Tower Church. One of the things that I love about it is we are training the future leaders of our church today. And by doing that, you know, they don't just come in and listen to a lesson. You know, I get them involved by having them pray, having them answer questions, sometimes even repeat what they learned on there by giving them the mic and being in front of all the kids so that they get used to that. That's just what I love about coming here to Strong Tower Church.
The community is my favorite aspect about the church, that there is always a space for people, for a friend, and nobody feels like they are left out. Some of the greatest joys have been just meeting with coffee, over coffee with people. So one of my greatest joys here, one of the best parts of the experience is building community.
I love the realness, the authenticity, the casualness, the integration. I think if I had to pick one of them words, maybe the integration. So just sometimes how you can kind of begin to lose that steam of that worship from Sunday going into your week. But I mean, I don't know the count, but I know if there was a research Pew and poll on how many people live within your neighborhood that attend your church, we gotta be top 10, gotta be top 10 in the country, because there's just so many people that are part of the neighborhood where you're crossing shoulders with members from the church. And yeah, it's dope. Integration is really a unique, I think, asset that we hold as a church. And we feel to the fullest.
Strong Tower is a Bible-believing church. You're going to have sound doctrine in line with the Bible. And there is a grace, a humility that comes across all the way across the leadership. Elders, Pastor Ben, everyone. I can't really say I know exactly what it is, but that's what comes across. You get this genuine grace and realness, and I really gravitate to it.
So one of the impacts that I've witnessed firsthand at Strong Tower is its uniqueness in caring for other people. So we've had members who have come to our church, did not become members right off. They didn't get involved a whole lot, but they had a crisis in their life. And we were able to come around them and love on them and support them, even though they weren't members, even though they hadn't gone through the process. And it's a beautiful, beautiful blessing to see how those things don't matter when it comes to another person in need. At Strong Tower, we love on people wherever they are.
So serving as an elder at Strong Tower is probably one of the favorite things I do in my life, because it's not just church. I'm doing it with my friends. I'm doing it with the men that I care about the most in my life. It's just a delight to serve alongside those men. Even Pastor Ben, looking at that room as a group of equal men. I never think of it as a job. Truly felt called to do it. It could be a pretty daunting task to think about doing something like that, but feeling called to do it and being called to do it with men that I know love me, love my wife, love my kids, and love this church just makes it a lot of fun.
When I think of a church planting system, I think of what is on the heart of Ben Turner and the team over there and what he has seen happen, the way God has brought about the vision that he had and that team had, and what he has begun to see being accomplished in the lives of the congregants, their members and regular attenders in the neighborhood, has only fueled him to say, you know what, we can bring people in, they can see what's going on here, and we can multiply the training and the work that we're doing here, and we can multiply this everywhere.
I think what I would say to Ben and Nikki, I have really just appreciated your faithfulness. The Bible talks a lot about steadfast love, and I think your commitment to not just Strong Tower, but to the neighborhood and to the people that you minister to is a wonderful picture of what the Bible talks about in steadfast love, long-suffering. You're there.
Yeah, when I think of Ben and his character and the impact that he's had, what strikes me is, he planted very young, which is very unusual. Even at that age, I remember him having a tremendous amount of character, just a tremendous capacity for visionary leadership. I think he's just unique in his ability to cast a vision for people. So his ability to be peacemaking, to be thoughtful and patient with people, to walk with them at the pace that they need for him to as they contemplate the things that he is so passionate about. I think it's really unique.
The thing that's impacted me the most, just being a part of the church and being the pastor of this church, is really the pastor gets to be in a unique position where I get to see kind of a bird's eye view of all that God is doing. And it's been really special. I get to hear stories of people buying groceries for each other, or going over to check on so-and-so's grandma at the hospital, or praying for someone in their small group as they lost a child, and then it affects me. It helps me build my faith and helps me be encouraged where I'm discouraged. So yeah, that's a thing that I didn't expect becoming a pastor. You think becoming a pastor, I'm going to minister to others and help them with whatever they're struggling with, but it's really encouraging that people are strengthening me in my faith. So if you've been a part of Strong Tower's family, whether that's a part of the church personally, or you've been from the outside cheering us on and supporting us and giving finances, we just want to say thank you. We just want to say you have really made a huge difference. And this 10-year celebration is really celebrating you and all God has done through your generous time, talent, treasure. And so we're grateful. We are so grateful that God has brought you along to be a part of this, and that us, Nikki and myself, get to be a part of your life. And we're so grateful for what God has done.